It's a great pleasure to be here this evening, and certainly a great pleasure to be here with Mertim and with Jasper, who've painted very fine portraits for the Archibald Prize this year. Can I get a quick show of hands? Who has actually been around the exhibition? Most people here? Two hands up there at least. Because it would be great, first of all, just to make sure that if you haven't actually seen Mertim and Jasper's works, then you can have a chance to go and have a look after this conversation. And let me just put them in perspective. Now, you were telling me, Mertim, that yours is just as you come in through the entrance, in the main entrance of the exhibition. It's actually just there on the left-hand side, isn't it? And as you will see, it's a tonal piece. You wouldn't describe it as black and white, would you?
Yes, correct. Yeah,
black and white. Okay, it's got some lovely shades there as well.
Some grey.
But Jasper, your portrait is way down the back there, so people need to go exploring to find those. And Mertim and Jasper have both chosen very, very interesting people to portray in their paintings. Mertim painted the Australian actor Billy Brown. Now, he spent a great deal of time overseas working with some very prestigious companies in the UK, and he's also had leading roles in productions here. Billy, really known for wonderful performance, very flamboyant both on stage and off, and sadly now no longer with us. Jasper painted a portrait of Adam Cullen. Adam, of course, many of you will know as an Australian artist with something of a bad boy reputation, which he certainly did lots of things to reinforce. And he painted extraordinary paintings, one of which, his portrait of David Wenham, won the Archibald Prize in 2000. And as again, perhaps most of you will know, Adam Cullen is no longer with us. So a common theme that we're talking about tonight is the commemorative nature of portraiture, as Ashley mentioned, because the portraits that these two artists have painted are now part of the record of two people who are no longer with us. But let's start a little more broadly in our discussion tonight. And to begin with, let's just get a little bit of a sense of your more general approach to painting portraits. Mertim, you've had a lot of formal training in Turkey before coming here to Australia. What's your usual approach to painting a portrait?
Actually, I graduated from the District Art Academy, and also I'm living in, I have been about 4 years in Sydney, and I'm trying to do my best, and I'm so stressed actually, sorry about that.
No, you're doing extremely well. We should just mention, Mertim very bravely agreed to take part in this interview tonight, and has only been here in Sydney for a few years, and has started an English language course 3 weeks ago. And is doing a great job in explaining what's happening. So just take it a step at a time. When you decide to paint a portrait of someone, how do you prepare for that?
Are you asking for about just Archibald or just men?
Just generally, usually, because you've painted portraits of many people.
Yeah, I'm doing portraits about people and their psychological situation. I'm finding my people on the street while I was walking around. I just seeing a person which is I like him or her, and I just asked would you like to be my model?
So you literally approach people on the street?
Yeah, it's like that. In Sydney, yeah. When I was
You can do that in
yeah,
Sydney.
but when I was in university, there are many professional models there. But after that, I'm in Sydney. I don't know to anyone in Sydney. There is only chance for me. There's only one chance for me. I just asking to them, and most of the time saying yes. Luckily, I think a couple of them is here actually. And the process is just start like that, and we are talking with each other, and I just want to learn her or his life, about her or his life, and I just try to learn about her or his idea, and what you want from the life, and what is your afraid, what is your I'm asking, what is your afraid, what is your interesting, and I just start trying to find an object with my model. And usually I'm using one person and one object. I'm combine together in my painting. The object must be explain my model's identity.
Something about their personality.
Yeah, it's like that.
And Jasper, I know that you are not only a painter of portraits. There are many other areas of your painting work. But when you're looking for a portrait subject, are you trying to get that sense of capturing personality and identity as well?
Well, I would hope that most people doing portraits would trying to do that, but my work's very kind of warts and all, like a big postage stamp. It's not of the whole body. It's always of a big head like the one of Adam, and it's usually a man. I don't know why. It's just kind of happened that way, and I think they're not people that I don't know pretty much. Everyone I've painted, because I'm not a portrait painter by trade, and is someone I know, so I feel very relaxed about painting, and especially in the framework of, say, the Archibald Prize, you don't want people to be disappointed or feel awkward or feel stressed. And I had this weird dual role this year where I was in it as a subject, and the painter, Sarah Hendy, was incredibly stressed and didn't show me the work for 4 months, and was so stressed she turned it the other way in her studio. But
it's a really great work. In fact, it's certainly one of my favourites
I
in the
love
show.
it. But I had no idea it was 60 by 60. The first time I saw it was downstairs because she was so stressed about it.
But you were determined not to be stressed in the same way.
No, not at all. I mean, my work of Adam took 1 hour and 50 minutes, and I just went boom. And if it doesn't work, I just wipe it back and go hit it again. And
it's very rare. It's interesting to hear you talk about time, because it's very rare for artists actually to say, this work took me X amount of time, a huge amount of experience beforehand.
Look, everyone says that it takes.
But the actual timing is an interesting act of spontaneity.
Well, I think my work has to look not fresh. It has to look energetic. I don't want it to be laboured. I use enamel paint, which is very unforgiving in terms of its setting qualities. If you leave it, it just runs. It's it's the opposite to a lot of oil painters, where they're working with a thick paint and adding mediums to make it thin. I'm using enamel, which is like water, and using air to thicken it. And painting off walls. So it's almost by nature of material that I have to paint quick. I can't sit and add bits and pieces here and there and let a painting progress. I have to hit it and leave it. And that's something Adam was famous for. I worked with him lots in the studio, and he'd always say, it's cooked, hit it and leave it. And he'd paint him quicker than me, Yeah. He'd just hit it and chuck it down on the ground, so it just didn't,
And Mertim, obviously for you, the painting is a much slower, more gradual, more painstaking process.
Yeah.
Describe that to us a little bit, the materials that you use and why that takes so much more time.
Yeah, first of all, I using oil color mostly. Actually, I start acrylic color, and after that I'm turned to oil color. I'm usually doing big portrait. I'm doing a bit photorealistic painting, and mostly they are taking about a couple of months. And I start from the live modeling, and after that I'm taking a couple of photos, which is from the details, and after that I'm continue from the details.
Tell us, just going into the specific of the situation with Billy,
Yeah.
you painted him in a steam bath, in a Turkish bath.
Turkish bath, yeah.
What made you decide that that was the perfect location? Because you've painted more than one painting of him in a steam bath, haven't you?
Yes, I am. Actually, I decided to do that when I met with Bill. Actually, I didn't know anything about him, and after that we just started to talk, and I learned he had been in Turkey, and he just studied Turkish Sufism actually. And after I learned that, I decided to do the painting in the Turkish bath, and I just tell him. He said, "Yeah, why not?" And we went to there, and it was so lovely, and so he was so energetic actually. And if I ask a question, he always say, "Yes, let's do that." And yeah, we did it. It was so.
And did you know that at that time he must have actually been quite ill?
No.
So he didn't share that with you as
Yeah, I didn't know
part
that.
of the painting process?
No, I didn't know that.
What about you, Jasper? You were aware that Adam was pretty frail while you were painting him. How did that affect your approach to the process?
I just didn't want to make a big deal out of it, you know. I'd painted with him before in the studio, and you know, he'd come around to my studio one time, and he whipped his shirt off, and he just looked so crazy that I took some shots and said, I'm gonna do a portrait of you. And
But interestingly, why did you choose not to include his tattoos in your portrait?
well, they're very offensive, and I mean, as my kind of name, as the cards suggest downstairs, the material on the work, that it's not really a side of Adam I knew. He'd obviously been painted for the Archibald numerous times, and some of the more famous ones being Paul Ryan's one of him looking like a general with a gun, and obviously Ben's work of Before and After 5 p.m. where he turns into a monster and so on and so forth. But, you know, I didn't really know him like that. I didn't go shooting with him. I didn't go hunting. I didn't like knives. I don't like guns. All that stuff that he loves.
But you were quite good friends. I mean, you did hang out together.
I mean, we you don't have to. You know, he loved doing that stuff, but he knew I didn't like it. You know, it's not the only thing. But you know, we got on very well in terms of art and in terms of health. He had so many health issues. I have a lot of health issues from when I was young, and you know, he kind of sympathised with that. I don't know why. He just felt like he needed someone or some, because you know, he was always injecting stuff in and taking tablets, and he was clearly very sick. He never tried to hide it, and was amazingly just bulletproof. The amount of damage he did to his body, you know,
For all of that tough side, that perhaps defiant side of Adam, you've painted a portrait, and those of you who've looked at the portrait, I'm sure, would see that sense of somebody who actually looks almost a little whimsical. You know, there's a kind of a tight little smile on his lips. It's not an aggressive portrait in any way.
It's always how I kind of saw him, you know, like he, not impish, but he was always so thoughtful, and he's very intelligent, and anyone who would have met him or any of the staff here who've worked with him over the years, he's very insightful and very generous with his time and his views on art, and it's very endearing, you know, and I just wanted to portray that, I guess. I thought that was probably a better kind of representation of him, and despite all his tattoos of swastikas and what have you, he still says his mum and dad are his heroes. He said that all the time in the studio, and he has a love heart of his, it says Kevin, his dad's name, who's his hero, and it has a paintbrush going through one side and a Magnum 44 going through the other. And you're just like, this is a guy who grew up on the northern beaches, who loved his family more than anything, and somehow had this image of badness, and it's just, it was very strange. It was a very strange thing.
Mertim, did you get to know Bill very, very well as you were getting to paint him? Because he was certainly a big, larger-than-life, flamboyant character. Did you get to see that flamboyance in him?
No, I couldn't get at the question, actually.
Sorry?
I couldn't get the question.
Billy was a very flamboyant, very expressive, lots of energy, lots of enthusiasm sort of character.
Yeah.
Is that how he was while you were trying to paint him?
No, actually, what I did two different portraits about him. One of them is it was very colorful, and he was smiling, and
is that the one where he's sort of reclining
yes,
in a rather
correct.
grand fashion? Yeah.
And I did this portrait, and after all of things, when he passed away, I just tried to give the black and white, and which is looking a little bit sad, and I just decided to give to Archibald this year. Also, I did another one, which is because he said to me, I'm always playing at the theater, and this time I want to be myself, and I don't want to play anymore, he said, and he just sit on the thing in the Turkish bath, and he said to me, just paint me like that, and just stay like that, and I did it.
So there was almost a certain weariness in the way he was sitting, with the towels draped around him and draped over his head. And
those are traditional Turkish clothes, actually. Sufism about it's. So what did you just ask?
Well, that was that sense, that feeling that you were trying to catch. Sorry, we've got some people talking over there. I hope that's not making it hard for you to hear us. But you were trying to capture that feeling of him sitting on the edge of the steps or the Turkish bath, draped in the towels or cloths. You mentioned Sufism. Did the painting for you have a certain spiritual quality?
I think so. I try to do that. Because I tried to represent his mystic background, because he had been 1 year in Turkey for the Sufism education, and I just show the face of the Bill Browns, that face of the Bill Browns. I believe I did, I don't know.
I think you captured it beautifully.
I think so. I'm not sure, actually. You know that. I'm just doing.
No. I think you've done a superb job, and people here who have seen that painting would see that you have captured that sense in his face very strongly. And part of what we were reflecting on tonight, or are reflecting on tonight, particularly in these two people, these two subjects of their portraits who have died since the portraits were painted, is that sense of portraiture as a continuing record of people. And I think Jasper, in your time with Adam, did you have a sense that this portrait was going to be part of a commemorative record?
Look, not until now, if that makes sense. I think when you're doing it, you're just enjoying painting someone, because he's one of my idols, like in terms of Australian artists, I love him, I love Howard Arkley, I love Jeffrey Smart, and I've got to paint 2 out of 3. And as someone who's 34, who's quite young, it blows your mind, because you're reading about these guys in textbooks, and all of a sudden you're painting in the same studio as them, and you just, you know what I mean? You can't describe that. As someone who wanted to be an artist at school, you just can't believe you're doing it. And in case of Adam doing it badly, because we'd always paint together and then he'd just paint over all my bits, which was always very funny. Yeah, I think it feels more that way now, and that's something that the Archibald's very good at, adding gravity to situations, and not that it makes work better, but Adam's cousin wrote to me, and I'd been in contact with her when he was sick, and she said, "Oh, thank you very much. It's so exciting to see Adam in the Archibald one more time, because obviously you have to paint a subject from who's living, so he can't take part in the Archibald anymore, ever." And he's been such a large part of it, and he's revolutionised this prize for contemporary artists since the late 90s. I don't think that a lot of contemporary artists would have entered it before people like him and the McLean Edwards and people like that started putting works in. I really don't. I never considered it when I was younger. And yeah, she wrote to me and said it was always such an exciting time in Wentworth Falls around this time of year, because either Adam had painted someone and the sitter was around, or the work was being sent to the gallery, and there was a buzz, you know, because he got all his stretches done at the Wentworth Falls art shop, and he had his studio in Katoomba in later years, and
So he really was a very influential figure. The ripples spread out from him.
like all good artists, I think, and you know, even if it's not directly people visiting the studio, their work reaches other people, and it's why you do the work, I think, you know, ultimately.
Thinking of the Archibald Prize itself, and in a sense it being a very important institution, continuing portraits of the time. As you came to Australia not very long ago, how did you hear about the Archibald Prize, and why was it important as a painter for you to enter it?
Actually, before I came here, I just studied about Australian art history, and also I just searched about prizes and everything, because I came to Sydney for all my life, to spend the rest of my life. I knew that, and I just researched before I came, and I know the Archibald, the biggest art prize in Sydney.
So you knew this while you were in Turkey?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Because you are going to different place and you decided to live rest of your life. This is a big deal, actually. I just wanted to learn to Australian art history, and I read many articles about that, and I search from the internet. I knew about the Jasper night before I came here.
Amazing.
I know.
Not really.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
given the enormous level of competition that there is to get into the Archibald Prize,
Yeah, even for me, actually.
how did you feel knowing that you had managed to get in?
Yeah, you can see. I can't believe that. Is that real? I don't know. Is he recording us?
Yep,
Yeah.
the evidence is going down.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, actually, it's a big thing for me. Even, you know, guys, I can't speak very well. Probably most of you can't understand me very well, and sometimes I can't understand myself, actually. Yeah.
So that feeling when you did know that you had
Yeah, I
got
miss
into
it.
the Archibald.
Yeah, it was a great honor for me. Actually, I'm really glad I'm here.
And in terms of portraiture, you have, I think, completed a project painting more than 50 portraits of various people of Balmain.
Yeah, I did.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Last year I did 50 portraits about Balmain, who are living there. It was so painful, actually. I didn't know that, because actually it was my wife's idea. I said yes, I can do that, and I think it was a big deal. And yeah, I did it, but end of the after the end of the painting, I felt, oh my God, it was so much for me. But it was okay, and I exhibited last year in Balmain. Everyone liked their portrait, I think most of them. Yeah.
It was a good project, and,
Yeah, it was.
and many more to come, presumably, in that sort of direction. Jasper, you've got a very well-established place in the art world. You are well known. People in Turkey talk about you all the time, apparently. But your actual style of painting is very distinctive. You mentioned the use of enamel, and there's the distinctive pegboards and so on. How did you come to develop that particular, now definitive Jasper Knight style?
I don't know. No, I do. No. I don't know. All I remember is defining little moments. I don't remember a path where it just kind of got to there. I remember I did 2 degrees, and the second one was more helpful than the first. And I had it's like everything in life. It comes down to good teachers, basically, whether they're your parents or whether they're in an art school or whether they're your friends, colleagues. And I just happened to get a good teacher who understood my practice. And they said, your work's about surface, doesn't matter what you're painting. So, you know, how about you don't paint on canvas or linen, try cardboard, you know. They said it's cheap, you can cut into it, you can pull bits back, you can glaze it with glue, you can add, you know. So I got into it. My first show was all on cardboard, and I loved it. And they just said, just choose anything. And I chose chairs. I got a 1,000 chair book of designer chairs. I chose about 30 chairs that I liked, and I just did paintings of those chairs. And I remember that was the defining moment in terms of surfaces. And since then, I never looked back. And that developed into perspex and masonite pegboard, found signs, bits and pieces, and it all kind of just grows. Now people bring me stuff to use, you know, and it's pretty awesome. But yeah, I guess it develops, you know.
So you've developed quite a distinctive and somewhat unusual style, a very personal use of materials. Mertim, your approach has been rather more traditional in its materials. Do you intend to continue that way?
Yeah, I think so. Who knows? Yeah, I'm going to keep going like that.
Well, what we've had in our half hour together this evening is an opportunity to gain some really lovely and interesting insights into the way these two artists work. And I think also we've had a sense of the relationship that they both had with the portrait subjects that they painted for this year's Archibald. It's been a real pleasure to be able to share those insights, and so would you join me now, please, in thanking Mertim Gokalp and Jasper Knight.